Hello, everybody. We are back with yet another coach chat on a different and a new platform on YouTube this time. A little bit of experimentation going on to see how we get the most of the interaction from all of you guys there. So I'm seeing that we've already got some people in the room, but we need to move that number a little bit up. But very happy to introduce already to you, to my side here, we've got Rob Clift from the UK. We've got to say it. It's an honorary badge. You've earned it many years ago, but still Olympic gold medalist at the Seoul '88 Games. In our sport, that means something. So congrats on that. Player for England and for the GB team for many years. But yeah, that's a thing of the past. Age catches all of us, doesn't it, Rob? Time flies. So after the playing days, Rob moved into banking and more recently into the mindsethub.org, a mental coaching organization. But he will tell you more about that from in his own words. So Rob, let's tell us about how to help young players cope with pressure.
Thanks for the introduction, Ernst, and thanks to everyone that's sort of tuned in, logged in. Really appreciate your interest. Um, I've tried to pack a lot in, so I'll get straight into it. But first and foremost, I want to say that I'd love you to get involved. I'd love to see your comments. I'm going to ask some questions. Please type in. I need your answers. I'm interested in your answers. Um, the my hope today is to give you a different perspective on helping young people cope with pressure. It might be subtly different from what you know, it might be radically different, and I just want to help you question how you're helping people. I'm not looking to give you any answers. So, Ernst, if you wouldn't mind putting the slides up. Um, so there, that's the aim. Um, when we're talking about pressure, it always helps to have context. Pressure is context related, and here's my context. So when I'm working with young athletes, uh, I tap into being a teenager. I was a teenager long time ago, but go back to the illnesses, the injuries, the selection problems that I faced, and it's important then I can just connect with young people in that way. Then 10 years, as I said, as an international hockey player, 2 years learning the ropes, 4 years competing and winning medals at the world stage, and 4 years struggling to do that, and a little bit of clinging on as well. All of those are equally important. These are all different parts of me, and they're all equally important. 30 years as a banker, the last 15 years of that working with small businesses on the brink of collapse. And that was a completely different type of pressure, probably pressure that I recognised as pressure much more. In my banking career, that I had my first panic attack and started to live with that anxiety. And then the last 5 years as a mindset coach, so learning about my mind and helping young athletes from all sports perform at their best in their sport and beyond by understanding themselves better. So that's the context that I bring this to you in. And I'm going to start off with a question. And I'd love to get your comments. Just please bash them in. What causes pressure in hockey? Trying to make it specific. So love to hear from you. Please just put anything you've got on your mind that you think might be a cause of pressure for a young hockey player. Parents. Sorry, I was looking in the wrong place where they're coming up there. So what else? Okay, that's from the hockey. Yeah. Fear of failure. Yeah, good one. shallow play or not. Yeah, it's good. All good stuff. Keep on coming. Character of the player, the coach. Interesting. So, what pressure might the coach bring to bear on young players? And I have worked with athletes, particularly a young swimmer, where it was all about the perception of the coach. Selection, yeah. So about getting into a particular team, and that's again where I do a lot of my work. Teammates, colleagues, yeah. So all good stuff. We'll give you another one or two more. Pressure on the field. Thanks, Dennis. That's good. Game situation. So winning, losing. I'm guessing you coming from there. All good stuff. All good stuff. So I'll move on to the first point, really, about pressure, and that is looking to normalise it. Sorry, yeah, so one or two more coming in. We can perhaps come back to those. So yeah, to normalise it and simplify it, really. I start with talking to young players about a game being designed to apply pressure. In hockey, if you think about the rules, the fact that you can only score in the D applies pressure to skills by reducing space. The opposition, that came up as one of the comments. So the quality of the opposition, the pace they play at, the way that they close you down, that's all pressure. And a majority of coaching at youth level, in my experience, is about helping young players develop the skills, and it's the technical skills and the physical ability to cope with those external pressures. The internal pressures tend to be left a little more, they're not as easy to see, excuse me, and to understand. And I simplified into two broad areas. The first one is that we are social creatures. The happy-go-lucky caveman is there for a reason. From caveman times, we have been wired to avoid rejection. That rings about once every week.
It always happens at the best of moments.
It's probably
that's pressure for you. That's pressure for you.
Right. So yeah, this is about not wanting to be out of the group, because caveman times, being out of the group was dangerous. And so FOPO is fear of other people's opinions. And we've had players, peers. For young players, teenagers, peer acceptance is paramount. And so a lot of pressure is built up around that. But coaches, parents, other people's opinions are really important. The next one is, I've forced this a little bit, but it's leader of the pack order. Again, since caveman days, we want to be close to the top of the pack because we survive better in that situation. And those are the things that really bring on pressure. And so being able to connect that normality to the situation that young players are facing and be able to talk to them about it, using that as a metaphor, I find can be really, really helpful. So I'd love to hear what sort of advice we commonly give to young people. What do we say? What do we hear? What have I've got one or two things I can add to it. That'd be interested to hear the sort of things that might come up. Again, type them in, please. Love to. Suck it up. Yeah, I can. What else? We're here to learn. Yeah, that's a good one. Anything else? Make the most of your time. Enjoy. Yeah, yeah. Smile. Enjoy. Make the most of the time on the pitch. This is a game. This is just a game. Pressure is normal. Yeah, well, the message was given also makes you perform better. So yeah, that's good. Focus on your task. Like it. Mentality is part of the game. So yeah, again, part of that learning process. Have fun. Enjoy. Yeah, good. Good. Thank you. I really appreciate you coming in with these things. Um, um, what we often do, and I think as coaches, you're coming at this, I think, from a really good place. Um, what a lot of young people get is what I call joining the dots. So distraction, just relax, smile, breathe, listen to music, just relax. Or it doesn't matter. There's another chance will come down the line. It's about just um, uh, today's. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, which is in a way opting out or thinking strategies, usually thinking positively. Just you can do it. Yeah, you trying to convince them that all is okay and they can that yes they can. Um, they're well meant, but they tend to be quite short term. They're designed to help reduce pressure, and this is what I'm going to come on to. And I think what happens is that they tend to minimize what the young person's belief in whether you understand their pressure or not. So this was a light bulb moment for me. I don't know how many of you will have come across this guy. There's a lot of people from outside of the UK, but one of UK's greatest ever Olympians, 4 times gold medalist. This was when he'd won 3 gold medals and was just about to go to the regatta for his 4th gold medal to compete for it. Obviously, down to the course in the bus, thinking if we had an accident now and I was slightly injured and couldn't row, then this will all be over. I could be loaded in the ambulance, smiling. Wow, I thought we are encouraged to reduce pressure, but here's someone who's it's okay. His mind is telling him he can opt out. Yeah, and that's okay for him. He doesn't have to act on what his mind says, but it's okay that his mind is saying that. If it's okay for him, it's okay for my young athletes, and I can sit alongside them and just accept that and validate it. I don't know. I don't know. Woody said it was his first. If it was his first games, I think what the top athletes learn to do is they all have these thoughts, but they learn to detach from them. They have the feelings, but they learn to work and live with them. And that's what I'll move on to. I think we often talk about this in terms of having mental strength, and I don't like the term. I think it suggests that we are withstanding pressure, we are fighting pressure, and I believe that flexibility is the key. Like the gymnast on the beam, performance is about getting that balance. It's about poise. It's about anticipating the problems. It's about moving quickly as well as having the strength. And that's what I want to show you in the next 15 minutes. So there are 3 areas for me in developing mental agility. Firstly is to acknowledge, to be aware of the stuff. The stuff are those thoughts, like Vincent had, the feelings, the what's going on in your body, noticing that. And so this is developing noticing skills. You then move on to accepting that stuff and unhooking from that stuff and working with your inner advisor to decide what you do next. And that is to act and do what matters to you and work with your discoverer. Try things out. So they're the 3 steps. I need a volunteer now. Someone to step up, which will mean going into your browser. You see ths.coach/guest. It would be great if one of you could just do something with me. You all want to improve. You want to become better coaches. And I'm hoping that this will be an opportunity for someone to do that. So maybe if you can just bash in that you're going into the browser, Ernst will, when you're there, will get you up. Oh, we got someone, have we?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
If somebody is brave enough to click the link, and we'll bring you on in the black square that you see. We have reserved for you there.
Okay. Whilst we're waiting, I'd just like you to notice what you are feeling about the opportunity, the challenge of coming up on screen, doing something you don't know what.
Denis, you are online.
Hi.
There we go.
I'm sorry, your name?
You're on. I think you're still on mute now.
Oh. How are we doing?
We applaud you already for the bravery to come on screen. Step 1, but now the microphone. No, not hearing you still. Not hearing you still. I think your comments need to be in the comment section still then, Denis. Sorry. Anybody else who brave enough to come on screen? Come on, people.
Yeah.
As coaches, we expect our players to step up. Now it's time for you coaches to step up.
Again, it's just part of what we're looking at here is about recognizing challenging situations and recognizing how you're feeling and thinking in challenging situations. So if you're not putting your name forward, then just check in on what you are sensations going on in your body. Maybe just something in your gut.
We've got Nicolette.
Hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Brilliant, Nicolette.
Okay.
Thank you. So maybe Ernst, if you could put us up together, it might be able to do that.
You want this one?
Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you very much, Nicolette, for volunteering. I've not got anything to be scared of for you, but I'd just like you to help out. So what the challenge I've got for you is, I think fairly simple and straightforward one. You know the alphabet. So
I hope so. In Dutch,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know for sure.
and
In English, I'm not
you
really
can
sure,
count to
but we'll see.
26.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all I want you to do is just put them together. So A1, B2, C3. I've given you the first three, and then we'll see how far you get down the alphabet. Um,
We have to. I have to say 1A, 2B, 3C.
yes, you can do it that way, or you can do A1 to A1, B2, C3, but just or the other way around. It doesn't
Okay.
matter, but then get as far as you can.
Okay.
Um, I've done this with a few people. There is a sort of like a mean score, so we'll see how you compare against that. Um, but before I do that,
Okay. I will start. Um.
before I do that, how
Um.
are you feeling?
Yeah. How I'm feeling?
Yeah,
I like the challenge. I'm
you
like,
like the
okay,
challenge.
let's go. Let's see, and
Yeah,
see where I
and
go. How I'm, and I'm
any
thinking of strategies already.
okay, so you're starting to think about how you can do it. Any sensations in your body?
Yes, of course. I feel my heartbeat
Okay, so your
faster
heart's
than
going a little bit.
normal because I'm like, ooh, this is like what's happening over here, and people are watching. I'm aware that people, and you said something what made the pressure higher for me. That was like, oh, I've got scored other people, so now my competitive mind. I'm very competitive
Yeah, yeah.
myself, so now my competitive mind comes, and I'm thinking more like, oh my god, I want to do well. So, and then I think like, no, I'm now older, so I know I've just focused on what I want to do. Just see how I go. That's what's
Super.
happening.
Thank you for all that. Far away.
Okay, 1A, 2B, 3C, 4D, 5E, 6F, 7G, 8E from Isaac, 9J, 10K, 11L,
I
12M,
think we'll,
13.
we'll leave it there. I think there was maybe one little mistake early on. I get confused myself. But by the way, there isn't a mean score, an average score. I can't compare. Um, I think you did really, really well, and a round of applause
Absolutely.
Oh, no worries.
from me
It was
for
fun to
stepping
do.
up. Um, um, yeah, so just a nice, simple way, and I picked up a few of these. My son got concussed playing rugby, and the concussion
Shall I hang up
protocols.
before you
Y- y-
continue?
Yeah, that's enough for the moment. If you just like to stay there, I might bring you back in a little bit. We'll see how we're going on time.
Okay.
Um,
Perfect.
um, yeah, so in a hockey sense, the picture there of a chap called Roger Self. He was the Great Britain hockey manager when I played. Um, he brought me out in front of the whole group of players fairly early on in my international career. Put the ball at the top of the D and said, "Can you score, Clift?" In the goal was Ian Taylor, the best goalkeeper in the world at the time, and shooting wasn't my strong point. Um, and that's the little test that he gave me. I scored. I always think, what happens if I hadn't? How can we replicate those little challenges, but then check in on the mental side of what's going on and help them develop the mental skills in addition to the technical skills? So, first part of what we're looking to do, the first step, is to drop anchor, I call it. This is about building awareness, noticing what's going on. So Nicolette, is fantastic. Obviously developed great noticing skills. But the best way, and whisper, this is mindfulness really. I don't talk to young people about mindfulness, but it's about um, developing little ways of um, going to a home base, and that can be your breath. It can be a sense. Maybe your if I said to you now, just notice your feet on the floor and your back against the back of your chair, then you're starting to develop, starting to drop anchor. It might be the warmth in your hands, or how hot and cold they are, and you can learn to focus and refocus over 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 50 minutes. I generally look to build up for a minute or two for young people at most. But this is not about reducing pressure. Really important. This is about just noticing what's going on, the sensations, the feelings, the thoughts, and normalizing them. So that's first step. Second step is better explained. I take care in worshipping at the altar of Kobe Bryant, but he explains it better than I can in 1 minute. So here we go.
How have you been able to, in your life, see past the cloud of emotion to actually execute on things? Because I think what we were speaking about earlier, this challenge that young people have today, everyone has today, of just so much information, so much cloud of emotion, so many feelings, so much childhood baggage that you're bringing. Like, how have you always cut through that and execute on it?
What I try to do is just try to be still and understand that things come and go, emotions come and go. The important thing is to accept them all, to embrace them all, and then you can choose to do with them what you want versus being controlled by emotion. A lot of times I've seen players, even myself, when I was younger, being consumed by a particular fear, and to the point where you're saying, okay, nah, it's not good to feel fear. I shouldn't be nervous in this situation right now. And it does nothing but grow. Versus stepping back and saying, yeah, I am nervous about the situation. Yeah, I am fearful about the situation. Well, what am I afraid of? And then you kind of unpack it. And then it gives you the ability to look at it for really what it is, which is nothing more than your imagination running its course,
Okay, so very simply what he said was, firstly, be still, which is what we've just done. Drop anchor. Then accept and embrace emotions. They come and they go. And getting young people to understand that when the storm is raging can be tricky. And I'll talk through one or two ways of doing that. But noticing when you're also consumed, or I'd call it hooked, with a particular emotion or thought.
How have you?
Just the interest of time, I might come back to this section, but I want to open things up, and this might take a little bit too long, or we could do it a little bit later. Ways to unhook from emotions are to name them. And as coaches, I think we can just help young people to talk about different emotions and put them on scales of anxiety, from panic to being concerned, and names in between, and just go, yeah, okay, there's anxiety. I just noticed that I'm anxious, and then thoughts, unhooking from thoughts, and I've had the thought that, just saying that to yourself, or something that used by an English cricketer, one of our best ever English cricketer, who had someone on his shoulder, the gimp, giving him all the doubts. But he was able to distance himself because he knew it was his mind doing that. So that's how you can become more accepting of thoughts. This is a really nice, simple way you could use on the side of a pitch. An example might be important game, umpiring decisions are going against you. One or two players or the whole team are just getting hooked by all of that. And the just relax message isn't working. The think positively message isn't working. And so it's about developing the skills in that moment to go, okay, we're angry. I'm angry. You're angry. That anger will go. The thoughts, it's not fair. The umpire's rubbish. They're just thoughts. This is not about reducing the anger or the emotion that's going with the pressure. It's about then deciding, unhooking from that, and deciding how you're going to use it and the direction you're going to take. And you could write this out. You're at a choice point. And a really nice, simple way that you can use with young players to explain that choice point. Third section, and this is probably the most controversial, particularly in these situations, I hate goals. Young people are asked to do too many goals. Every subject, they've got a goal at school. They've got a goal for their strength and conditioning. They've got a goal for their skills. They've got a goal now from their mental, mindset coach. They're just asked to do too many, and it gets confusing. I've seen young people with 20, 30 different goals. They're then just ignored. People don't go back to them to help them through with them, or they're told to ignore them. Forget the outcome. Something that someone said to me, everyone that gets into the Olympic final in 100 meters has the same goal or a very similar goal, but only one or two or three people can. It's not the goal, it's how they go about doing things, the important things. And the thing with goals is that they never stop, and I think that is a bit of a hamster wheel for young people in particular. So we move beyond goals to the quality of what they're doing, the actions that they're taking, doing things that are important to them. Again, whisper it. In grown-up language, we call this being true to your values. For young people, that's language that they don't really understand. So again, I use metaphor to get there, and use these sort of questions. What qualities can we see when you're at your best? Maybe getting them to think about people that they admire and what it is about them that they admire, that they want to emulate. Or how do they want to be remembered? At the end of a selection process or at the end of a season, what it is they want people about the way they went about doing things. And the metaphor is, if it was on your shirt, people will go, yeah, that's the way that he went about things or she went about things. It's on the shirt. And this is one that I did with a young hockey player going for some national trials, who'd been through a lot of injuries and her confidence was rock bottom. And these are the things that are important to her. She realised that when she was at her best, she had an intensity about her. She put that into turn and burn. So getting on the ball, really attacking directly, running at defenders, or in transition, turning and getting back and being really energetic in that. She recognised she'd shown a lot of resilience in coming back from injury, but it was going to be difficult to maintain consistency. So she was going to have good sessions and bad sessions, and show her resilience, having a weak session to refocus and go again, and that was really important to her. And then she recognised that when she went to places that she played at her best, in a warm up, she'd just go, pick up, find someone, a friend, and go, let's just warm up and have some fun in that process, and maybe even make some new friends. And that was to be the focus of what she was doing. And so just to round it all up, ahead of some questions. So we are looking to normalise things, go back to caveman. So FOPO, fear of other people's opinions, understanding those fears, normalising those fears, wanting to be the expectations they set of themselves to be leader of the pack as well. Validating them. For me, the Matthew Pinsent moment, that it's okay for my mind to say, I'd like to opt out. And to be honest, leading into this presentation, my mind then, maybe if my internet's not working, it won't be such a bad thing. That's what happens. That's what our mind does. We get to choose whether we act on that or not. Acknowledging it, so that's dropping anchor, noticing, being aware of the stuff that's going on inside you in the moment when it matters. And so developing these skills and being able to use them is something that they can just learn and you can refer to on a regular basis, so that they drop anchor when they need to. And sometimes it's really difficult to do that, because when you're under pressure, your focus goes in and you don't notice what's going on out there. Then to accept them, the Kobe moment for me, embracing, naming the emotion, knowing it comes and goes, unhooking from the thoughts, before deciding what you want to act on. What's important to you? What do you want on your playing shirt? People go, yeah, Rob, it's important that he cares about me, and he's showing he cares about me. So that's it from me. Any questions? Again, you can put something up on the comments section, and we can go from there, maybe.
So coaches, bring on your questions in the comment section, and then we can bring them on screen. Or alternatively, you can also click the ths.coach/guest link, and we can bring you on stage so that you can ask the question in person. Maybe the one to start off from me for you, Rob, is,
Yeah, sure.
I think one of the most difficult ones to deal with as a coach when you're experiencing a young player with an unhealthy amount of pressure on her or on him is the one where the pressure comes from the parents. When you deal with a player and you have her or him in a one-on-one, what's the best way to deal with that?
To start with, I just have to understand that, and I work on the basis of it. So I would say to the young person, I'm in the car with you, you're driving, I'm the passenger, I'm going to understand what's going on and help you go to where you want to go to. Often they won't see the parents as the pressure, is my experience. And it might be more subliminal. So I'd have to try and pull that out of them, and just talk a little bit about the relationship that they have with them, and ask about some of the things that the parents might be saying to them. And then look to normalize that. They want the best for you. So they want you to get to leader of the pack, maybe, and that's normal. But then start to bring in the inner coach and say, you can either hook to that, or you can decide whether what they're saying works for you or not. And I might use some examples. Thankfully, I didn't have that with my parents, but I did have, when I was young, a time when I had 4 or 5 different coaches, and they were all giving me their advice. And I was getting, I was told to be more attacking. I was told I need to defend on work on my defensive skills. I was given lots of different things to do, and it was getting confusing. And I then start to talk to them about how they can then become their own coach and explore what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And things are getting really, noticing that there's a big parental pressure that is overwhelming the young player. Then it's time to get them two together and just start to work and explain maybe some of the actions. And this, I'd probably say, if I was going to say to a parent, some of your actions might be putting pressure on the child or the young player, I'd do that separately from the young player, but then I'd also do some things together, and work maybe on the what's important to you both, and the discussions between parent and young player can be about how the young player expressed what was important on the pitch.
Okay. Question from Cristina from Argentina. Do you have any advice for managing a group with people who are more experienced and older than you?
Interesting one. I'll have to have a think about that one. I was thinking more about working with the younger people. So I'll go. I'll go with the group, working in the group to start with, and that would be about explaining some of the principles that I've just talked through, and I like to keep it simple. The 3 steps, and then to do this through role modeling. So using a little example I've just given out, the A1, B2, C3, and about what it feels like inside, or putting that onto a pitch, bringing someone out, maybe someone that you know can work with that particular pressure, like Nicolette could, but and getting them to role model how they can feel it, understand it, then accept it, be aware of it, and then do what they is important to them, so that you can use them to role model the situation, and that would work for people that are more experienced than you. Just think about situations that might bring pressure on, and role play that situation, and don't be afraid then if things don't quite go to plan. A bit like today, Ernst and I were a bit worried about how we'd get people on, and whether that would be smooth. It wasn't smooth. You could then say, well, that's what's happening inside of me. I'm feeling really quite nervous now, but I'm going to drop anchor, and I know that nervousness is going to go. I'm having the thought that this is going pear-shaped, but what's important to me is that I work through that and I show some resilience. So I'm just going to carry on, and people will really accept you for that. People will really be happy for that. How does that sound?
I think that's a good answer. Otherwise, Christina, you just let us know in the chat if you want to follow up on this. But let's bring on the question from Mo here. Is it an idea from the onset to define or redefine what pressure is?
I did think about putting that in, and if I'd been a scientist, I probably would have started off with let's define pressure. The difficulty with defining pressure is that it feels different for everybody. Most young people will say, I feel under pressure, or I'm stressed. I think there's enough language around the place now, enough of discussion around it for people to go, yes, that's a feeling that I associate with the word under pressure, the words under pressure. So beyond what I've just talked about, in just having more open discussions around what it feels like for me, and asking other people what that feels like for them, I wouldn't get into definitions. This is about experiencing it and feeling it. So probably a really big point for me is being more open and prepared to talking about it, and talking about ways of working with it, like I've just done it. That might not be for you, so if you've got other ways of dealing with it you're happy with, go with them. This is, as I said, this is perhaps a slightly different approach. A lot of sports psychology that I studied would be about changing your language around pressure, changing your state around pressure. Whereas the approach that I'm much more comfortable with is about accepting it, sitting with it, and then going.
Okay.
Oops.
Another question
I'm
for me
delaying it.
then, Rob, if you allow me, is how do you deal
Yeah.
with the pressure when the game is on? So not before or after the game, but
Yeah.
really when the game is on and you're noticing this or that player that you're really following up is okay. The valves are exploding. How to deal with that at that
Yeah.
moment?
There was a great in the sports psychology studying that I've done. There's one of the earliest and best known sports psychologist, Ken Rivatsa, who had a little saying as it starts before it starts. And so you need to be doing this and practicing it like you would practice your short corner routines, like you would practice your skills. So you need to be talking about this well before game time and talking about it on a regular basis. So if your coaching sessions aren't involving some discussion about mental pressure and how you deal with it in situations, then I think you're missing a trick. And then so in and just like you try and simulate pressure in a training session around skills, try and stimulate pressure about mental pressure, and simulate that through um, the escape key on your keyboard is a good way of remembering about how you can simulate the internal pressure, and that is escape. So evaluation, you get people to think they're being evaluated. Scrutiny, you put them under scrutiny, or consequences. Something happens if they don't get it right. And so you put that into your training sessions. You talk about pressure and develop a way of unhooking and then going ahead and doing. And so they're used to that concept. And then in a match, I showed you the choice point. Now, you can just grab hold of someone or the team and go, we're going away from where we want to go. We said we wanted to be and do this. So let's unhook. Let's notice how we're feeling. And then let's do the important things for us. And that can be a 15, 30-second conversation in a match, but it needs to be done before a match.
Yeah, ideally. Question from Ryan here, Ryan Croxon.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on how to replicate a pressure situation during a training session without just playing a game with the win-or-loser situation? Would this delivery change based on the group ability?
Yeah, so this is something that I'm learning about. So I've done it with a sort of mental challenge. Sorry, I know I'm lagging a lot. Done it with a mental challenge. And so in a game, I think we do have to be aware that sport is about winning and losing. Or winning and losing is integral to sport. And so that moves to the consequences. I said the escape, evaluation, scrutiny, consequences. The ways that I do it are I love ladders. So performing a skill, and if you complete a skill, you can go up the ladder. If the skill breaks down, you go down the ladder. and that will, for some people, introduce the pressure, and then you can start talking about the way they're feeling, about dropping anchor, about unhooking from any thoughts that they've got, and about doing the things that are important to them. Might start introducing it in a skill sense about particular thoughts that they might want to use. What in golf would use swing thoughts. So that's one way to do it around particular skills. But it can also be about creating some competitive situations and what happens in those competitive situations, and getting people to sort of check in on themselves in those competitive situations. Ryan, does that help? Ah, I can't hear Ernst. I'm sorry.
You're on mute. It's the disease of the year. Huh? So I was on mute. My
Okay.
apologies. Any follow-up questions? So Ryan says perfect. Thanks. Any follow-up questions? Now's the moment. Otherwise, we are going to wrap things up. So Rob, thank you very much for sharing the
Can we
knowledge with us.
just say one thing on
Yeah.
sorry, just one thing I'll do to go back on Ryan. Experiment. Yeah. Do what point 3 in that plan is to discover. So see what works for your group, what works for individuals within your group, and don't be afraid to say to them, look, I'm trying to put some pressure in here, and see how they respond, and then talk about different ways to respond to the pressure. Sorry.
No, perfect addition to the already good answer. So Ryan should be happy there. No, thanks very much, Rob, for sharing the knowledge with us here on a difficult topic. Pressure is something sensitive, and we need to be aware that not everybody reacts to the same way to different situations. But okay, one more question here popping up. So let's give Nicolette a chance because she was brave enough to come on stage earlier.
Yeah, thank you, Nicola.
Nicolette, how do you recognize kids have pressure? Because the group's norm can be that you do not experience it. That's a good one.
Brilliant, and one that I almost did a slide on, but I had too much in there already. We show pressure in 3 broad ways: flight, fight, or freeze. If people are getting aggressive, that can often be about a pressure situation, and so aggression is one. If people go passive, so they pull out of situations, they go quiet on the pitch beforehand or afterwards. Again, in relation to what they're normally like when they're at their best, then that is a good indication of pressure. So know your player, and then evasion. So when they stay away, when there's they're not getting involved, is the third main way. So you have to know the person and then see in those 3 ways whether they are moving away from what they are at their best. And I get this from a chap called Dr. Kerry Evans. How to cope under pressure. He used to work with the All Blacks. ESC, evaluation, scrutiny, consequence. APE, aggression, passivity, evasion, escape. Good way to remember it.
That's a good one to finish up with. I would say. Again, Rob, thanks very much for sharing the knowledge, and especially Nicolette. Also, thanks for that last question because that was a good one.
Yeah, thank you, Nicolette.
Yeah, and people, we did a little experiment here on YouTube instead of our regular channel, to get some more interaction from out of you. So we're going to continue with that experiment here on YouTube for the next couple of chats. But let me just end today with thanking you, Rob, for sharing the knowledge with us, and yeah, let's hope that we do not experience a lot of pressure in the next year. Thanks, and bye bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.